So let's take a dive into the program. Okay, now let's start GT STRUDL 41. Okay, so this is the latest version of STRUDL. And first, we see the introduction screen for GT STRUDL. Now I can go directly into GT menu to start doing some modeling in here for a similar structure. Okay, so here I'm going to first activate the wizard. Okay, so you can now go into create model wizard. This is a new feature inside GT STRUDL 41. And we can just go okay and just give these inputs. And once we've given all these inputs, I'm not going to define any loads for now. I just wanted it to create the geometry for us. We can also run the analysis from here and create physical members. That's a new feature. I'm just going to click on finish, and it creates this nice, simple frame structure for us. Okay. Now here, once we've created the geometry, it's to generate the same wind loads that I had computed on paper. We can actually go to create loads, and there's two types of loads. You can go open and enclosed. Okay, so we'll take a look at open frame structures, and we pick the right code, which is ASCE 7 2016. Okay, now here, let's say, since this is our first load case, I'm just going to say load case ID as 1. Wind speed is 140 miles per hour. The direction of the wind could be 0. I'm just going to say 90. So it's actually going to blow along the z-axis. Global, I'm going to put in a KZT factor of 1. Directionality factor should be 0.85, but I'm just going to go with 1. Gross area, remember we had computed that to be 1800, but what this allows you to do is define different gross areas and different directions in which the wind is blowing. So in this case, since we have only 3 frames, we can just compute that easily and do that. But if we wanted to compute, add more area to it, we can do that, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Here, for the member data, we can say what type of structure this is. Okay, so we want to use the petrochemical code. I'm just going to say this is an industrial frame. Members, for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to say existing. Okay, so what that does is it applies the load to all members. Okay, you can pick and choose using this button also. So different frames can have different wind intensity. So if you want to take into account drag, you can do that also. Sorry, shielding factors, you can do that. Here, it's going to compute AF and CF based on the properties of the cross section that we have defined. So I don't need to define that. It'll compute that for me automatically. We can define things like thickness of ice and thickness of insulation. Okay, CDG is going to be, let's say, 1.4 in this case that we've computed, and you can override these other parameters as well. Okay, now if you add members, add to member data, you can click on this button called review data. If this shows up, then you're okay. If there's an error or something missing, it'll warn you. Okay, and once that's done, I can just say save load, done, boom, your wind load has been generated. Okay, now if you wanted to view that load in graphics, you can just say display load, draw load arrows, and you see all the wind loads have been generated. Okay, so an engineer looks at the wind load and he or she is like, okay, do I need to accept this? You know, is this like a black box? And the answer is no. You need to gain confidence about what you're doing is actually correct. Okay, so you might have some hand calcs ready like I did. Okay, and to verify that, let's say we can first save the file. Okay, so you can generate a GT STRUDL file for future use. I'm just going to call it demo.gti, save that. And what the GTI file has is STRUDL text, okay? STRUDL stands for Structural Design Language, okay? So this is basically showing you all the inputs that went into this model. Plus, it also shows the inputs for your wind load generation. You can use this to basically generate additional templates, okay, for your company. So so you don't have, a user doesn't need to create these wind definitions from scratch every time. They know that the wind speed on a particular site is going to be 140. You're designing 10 buildings, so you don't need to, define this, n number of times. So this becomes a basis for generating your template, okay, which I'm going to talk about also